Hello and welcome to Relatively Rich Life. I'm Maya.
And I'm Henry.
Today we're going to be giving you the lowdown on Harvest Host and whether or not we think it's worth the cost.
Shizzle.
Okay, let's dive right in. Before we get started, let us know in the comments section below if you are already a Harvest Host member. If so, leave a checkmark emoji, and if you're not, you can leave an X emoji. This will help us in the weird world of algorithms out there. It will boost our content to the top, and we really appreciate it.
For those of you out there who are unfamiliar with Harvest Host, in short, it is a membership program which includes a network of over 1,800 businesses throughout the US and Canada, which include wineries, farms, breweries, and golf courses. Did I cover them all?
I think that's the majority of them. There are a few other outliers out there, but that's the bulk of the businesses.
These businesses allow self-contained RVs to camp overnight without any additional fees.
But before you get too excited, again, we want to give you the lowdown because Harvest Host is not as straightforward as it may seem. Number one, for starters, the fee to join Harvest Host is $79 per year. Now, you do have the option to upgrade for an additional $20 in order to be able to camp at various golf courses throughout the US, which is actually the membership that we have. Having said that, $79 is really cheap for an annual membership. So I think, that's a pretty good deal.
Definitely. You can spend that easily during any weekend in any private campground.
Yeah, for sure. So that's per year. So good deal.
Number two is going to be self-contained RVs only, which includes Class A's, Class B's, Class C's, travel trailers, toy haulers, and fifth wheels.
Now, unfortunately, Harvest Host is not open to tent campers, nor do they allow van lifers or people who are camping out of their cars, and even pop-up campers are not allowed.
Number three is going to be that most of these places do not offer hookups, so be ready for some dry camping.
Yeah, and I will say that we have encountered a couple of places that do have water available on site, and occasionally you might find someone that will be willing to offer you an electrical hookup, but I would just say don't go in expecting that. That is not the norm for Harvest Host.
Yeah, bring your generator.
Number four is going to be that you can only camp for one night at most Harvest Host locations. So in their rules and regulations, they actually ask that you do not request to stay for more than one night. Now, if you happen to be camping and the owner invites you to stay for longer than one night, then that's a different story. And that actually happened when we visited one of the Harvest Host locations. The owners were gracious enough to invite us to stay beyond checkout and longer than the one night stay.
Yeah, you will discover that a lot of these owners are very friendly, and these are all small businesses, so you can definitely develop a rapport with them.
For sure. Having said that, just to dry camp for one night might not be worth the effort for some people. So that's just something to keep in mind.
Well, that's why this program is pretty cool when you already have a destination and you just need a break en route.
Yeah, definitely. Number five is going to be that the RV that you're using is going to have to be up to the Harvest Host standard. They're not going to want a very old RV parking on the sites where people are conducting their business, which makes sense. So when you're filling out your membership, you're going to have to give them a little bit of information about your RV just to make sure that it's up to their standards.
Number six is going to be that reservation requirements vary. So before you book these locations, make sure you read the instructions on the website for that particular vineyard. Some may ask you to just send an email to reserve it and then they'll give you a confirmation. Some will want you to call, and others even have a way to reserve the spot on their website. So read the fine print.
And again, these are small businesses, so you might find, like in one of the situations with us, we followed the requirements on the website, but it just so happened that there was a big wedding going on the week that we wanted to go, so they weren't allowing campers to come that week. So it's a very small operation, so to speak, so you'll just have to speak with the owners and just adhere to their reservation request. Number 7 is going to be that most of these businesses will have very limited space. And what we mean is that they may only allow one RV to camp, or they may allow 2 or 3. It just depends on the business. Now, this can actually create an issue with so many campers being on the road these days. You may find that it may be a little bit more difficult to reserve some of these sites. We mentioned in a prior video that happened to us when we were on a long trip. We thought we could just call up a Harvest host and get in a semi-remote location, but they didn't have any availability for us. So this could also cause a bit of an issue if you're traveling in a caravan with other RVers, and let's say there's like a group of 5 or 6 and you need additional spaces. You may not be able to stay together at a Harvest host. The other thing with that is that if you are traveling in a caravan or with other RVers, everyone needs to hold a membership. It can't just be one person. Anyone who's going to park overnight definitely needs a membership.
Number 8 is going to be that some of these places will probably be out of the way to your destination. So make sure to pre-plan if there's a certain vineyard or farm that you want to visit.
Yeah, and actually the website has a tool where you can set your destination or set your route, and then it'll let you pick and choose how far off your route you're willing to go to get to one of these locations. So I really like that feature or that tool that they have on their website. It's pretty convenient. So that leads us into number 9, which is that some of these locations are very remote, and this can kind of create issues with your rig. If you're driving on some of these roads, they may be super narrow. There may be bridges that your rig is too heavy for. You may even encounter muddy terrain. So ultimately, this can create problems navigating your rig through some of these terrains.
Yeah, especially you ballers out there with those big Class A's and diesel pushers.
Yeah.
You better do your homework.
Yeah, be careful out there. Number 10. So the check-in and check-out times at some of these locations can actually be a little tricky. And that's because some of them are wineries and breweries, and by state law, they have to have certain hours of operation. So what this means for you is that you're going to have to coordinate with the owners to make sure that the business is open when you arrive. In certain cases, the owners might be perfectly fine with you arriving after business hours and having you stay when they are actually closed.
Yeah, like in our situation, we visited this one location and they were closed, but they still allowed Harvest Host members to come and stay there, and we pretty much got a private tour of the winery.
Yeah, that was really cool. We got a private tasting and a tour of the entire property. So, you know, it just depends on which Harvest Host location you're at and what they allow. The other thing to keep in mind with Harvest Host is that some of these locations are not going to be open year round. So again, call and coordinate with the business owner.
Number 11 is going to be the $20 minimum. So like we mentioned earlier, a lot of these locations are small businesses, so be prepared to spend at least $20 to support these businesses.
It's the least we can do. Number 12 is going to be do not get too lit, okay? So obviously, if you're staying at a brewery or a winery, you might get that first bottle of wine for $20 and say, oh, I'm not going to spend any more. The whole reason I'm here is to not spend money. What happens with us sometimes is that we'll get that first bottle, the wine is good, we're having fun, and before you know it, we've spent $60 to $80 on wine, which is like, oh my God, like what was the point? We should have went to a campground.
So watch your booze intake, because you may be leaving out of there with empty pockets.
Not only that, I mean, you don't want to wake up with a hangover. What's worse than having to drive your RV with a hangover? That would suck. So
yeah, you don't know nothing about that.
Oh, excuse me. True that. I don't want you to have to drive with a hangover.
Number 13 is going to be that some of these places are just parking lots. So if you're looking for a place with nice scenery, make sure you check the website and browse through the photos.
Yeah, and that's really important because you just kind of assume that if you're staying at a winery that you're going to be staying, you know, in a field of grapevines and things like that. And while they may have that, that might not be the area where they're allowing the campers to park. They might have you in a totally different area in just like a gravel lot or something like that. So again, if you're just staying overnight trying to get from point A to point B, that probably doesn't really matter to you. But if you're trying to create some like romantic date night where you're staying in the middle of a field, you might get your feelings hurt. So check the website. Or
check out videos where I post nice B-rolls.
Yeah.
And drone shots.
Number 14 is going to be that most of these Harvest Host locations will allow generators. After all, you are dry camping, so they realize that you're gonna need some sort of access to your electricity and things like that. However, you will need to coordinate with the location that you're staying at and make sure that they don't have rules in place on when you can run your generator. Also, just think about it. If they have their business open to the public, they probably don't want you running your generator if you're located close to the entrance. So that's just something to keep in mind. Check with the location and make sure that you're following their rules.
So now that you know the lowdown, as mentioned earlier, we have the premium membership, which includes the standard locations and the golf courses, and we love our membership. It pretty much allows us to visit these locations that we would never have access to otherwise. Meet and support really nice people and small businesses, and I get to dry camp, which I really like to do.
Yeah, and I think it kind of meets us in the middle because I'm not that much of a dry camper, but
she likes wine and
see.
Yeah.
Paying homage to the vintners out there.
She's a wine head.
So it's like, meeting in the middle. We get the dry camp and I get to drink my wine. So we actually love it. If you are interested in joining Harvest Host, we actually have an affiliate link which can save you 15% off of your membership. We've linked it in the description box as well as in the comments below. So feel free to use our link.
And I will also link a couple of vineyards that we visited that we really like and highly recommend.
We hope that this video has been super helpful. If so, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you won't miss any of our latest videos.
And on that note,
we'll see you on the next one.
Peace. Bye. Shizzle. Which include wineries, farms, breweries, golf courses. Are there any other? What are you doing?
I was showing my wineries.
Oh my God. So definitely watch your booze intake because it will take you to the bank. No?
Sounds weird.